without further ado, his bio is in the book.
Oh, delete.
Daniel Kelly is a musician and a teaching artist. And,
the dog stopped his chasing. The cat took a doze. The laundress stopped washing.
Hey, and everything froze.
Dude, that's good. The cat took a doze and everything froze. Okay, help me with this one, man. At 12, the prince was readier. His courage was steadier. He climbed the wall, but took a fall and, limped back home.
Upsettier.
You're good. Once there was a babe wrapped in green and lace with rosy cheeks upon her face. Thank you. Chubby fingers and squiggly toes, curly locks and a cherry nose. Awesome. Once there was a pool and a frog and a babe and 12 fairies and all the gifts they gave.
12 fairies, a frog, a babe. He won't play all his parts. Instead, his words will paint pictures in your head.
Once there was a fairy rejected and nobody liked her. She was ignored. She was...
Oh, how about scorn?
Ooh, once there was a fairy rejected and scorned. As if she had never, ever been. Once there were stairs and a mystery. Now was the hour of suffering, of
misery.
Oh, dude. Sometimes the princess was pushed down on her bended knee. It made her angry, lit her up, ignited her.
Ferocity.
Dude. I'm done. The Sleeping Beauty poem is done. I think we're ready. Once there was a wish for a child to kiss, for a babe to call their own. Once there was a wish, but no child came to warm their home. Once there was a queen with a tear in her eye, and a king who sat with her as she. With a tear in her eye, the queen sat by a pool in the forest green, and there she began to sing. And so it was. Each day at dawn, the queen went down to the forest pool, dipped her feet into the water cool, and sang. Once there was a song so sweet, cooed by a queen who cooled her feet, who wished for a babe all grown. And time went on and on and on, till one misty morn, that sweet, sweet song was heard by a frog who lived on a log beside the pool. A frog so old and wet and wise, he looked into the sad queen's eyes and gave his blessed boon.
A babe all your own will come to you soon.
With a leap and a splash, the frog was gone. Once there was a wish and a song by a pool and a frog and a boon, and soon a baby was born. Once there was a king whose heart did sing. She's as bright as the sun, gentle as the moon, and her name shall be Talia. This very day I'll set a plan to celebrate with dance and song the birth of Talia, for whom we've longed. Send word throughout the land. The party will be sumptuous and glorious and grand. A soldier was sent with special intent to call the fairies to the wondrous event. One by one they did consent, till 12 had answered the call. Once there was a babe born to a queen and a king who had almost everything. 12 golden cups for water and wine. 12 golden plates for lamb and for swine. 12 golden spoons. But soon the soldier rushed in to say, Sire, Sire, I learned of a 13th fairy today. Thoughts rush through my mind. Look, let's say the fairy's lost. We'll say she's dead. No, we'll keep it at 12. Is what he said. Once there was a fairy, rejected and scorned, as if she had never, ever been born. Once there was a fairy, rejected and scorned, whose anger grew into a storm. Once there was a babe wrapped in green and lace, with rosy cheeks upon her chubby fingers and squiggly toes, curly locks and a cherry nose. Yes, each of the fairies answered the call, and laughter rang throughout the hall. The king and queen were filled with joy as boys chased girls, and whoa, girls chased boys. The magic moment came in a rush. Suddenly the castle hushed. Then the sounds of harps and horns arose as each fairy gave the gift she chose. Each one had a special gift to give little Talia's life a lift. One by one they approached the babe. One by one their gifts they gave. The charm of artistry is what give I, that this blessed babe will fly on imagination's wings unfurled beyond the limits of this world. Beauty is the finest gift I know. From heart to hand, from head to toe, may her beauty ever show. Courage is the medal I wish to pin, to guide her through, that she may win, that she may lead the frightened sheep from the stormy night to the barn to sleep. From this day on, Talia won't ever quit. From start to finish till she's done with it. I give the princess determination, the stubborn strength to stick to it. The girl will show elegance in all she'll do, from the way she walks to her choice of shoe, from the depth of her human kindness to the fluid flow of her silky dress. Likely face the hour when she's pushed down on her bended knee. Me, I give the princess ferocity. She'll be ever grateful for all she has, for all we have given, for the blessed path, giving thanks along the blessed way for each and every joyous day. Oh, come on, you guys! Nothing's better to chase after than a hearty dose of belly laughter. My gift to Talia is not a joke. Let her have humor and a lot of fun to poke. This princess babe will see the day when she'll rule the land, and all will say she's bright, she's princess intelligence. So there. I give her joy. It's life's true prize. For a happy heart is the way of the wise. There are times one must wait for the right moment, or later pay with a sad lament. All your gifts are fine and pretty, I sense. I give the princess supreme patience. Then lightning clapped. The sky became dark. Candles blew out. The castle grew stark. A dismal hush filled the room, followed by an awful gloom. The silence was split by a cry so raw. It was the thundering shriek of a giant crow's caw! On the bird, her eyes aflame, the furious 13th fairy came.
I am a fairy, rejected and scorned, as if I had never ever been born. I am a fairy, rejected and scorned. My anger grows into a storm. How the people shuddered. Not an eye did blink. Not a word was uttered. Not a thought could they think.
And like a hurricane in full torment, the fairy's mouth opened, and her spell commenced.
The day the girl turns sweet 16, she'll spy a spinning wheel's golden sheen. She'll wish to spin herself instead. She'll prick her finger and be dead.
With a creepy cackle of frozen tones, the 13th fairy shook her bones, jumped onto the enormous crow, and flew like fire out the open window. Oh! Once there was a queen, once there was a king, once there was a wish for a child to kiss. Talia's crib was quickly surrounded. The queen gave the king a horrible stare. Why was she not invited? Everyone was terribly scared. Just then, a voice, peaceful and calm, rose up to quiet the alarm. It was the 12th fairy, who had not yet spoken. While my sister's spell can be broken, I can change the curse the child will keep. Talia won't die, but she'll fall asleep. She'll dream and she'll doze for 100 years. At the end of that time, a prince will appear. He'll wish for a kiss, and the kiss he will take. And just like clockwork, Talia will wake. In that instant, the gloom was lifted by the life-saving gift that Talia had been gifted. The king declared, from this moment on, all spinning is done. There'll be no wheels, no spindles, no yarn will be spun. Not any, not nowhere. Not one single one. I send this decree throughout the castle. And even though it is a tremendous hassle, let all the spinning wheels be burned. on her chubby fingers and squiggly toes, curly locks and a cherry nose. Soon she crawled, and as she grew, each fairy's gift did come true. One by one, they did show. One by one, they helped her grow. Her hand was steady, and her ear was true. She drew so pretty, and from her flute she blew melodies with poetic words, like the lovely songs of the forest birds. And beauty is a thing within and out. Talia's beauty was without a doubt. From heart to hand, from head to toe, she was radiant as the sun's gold glow. Anger and fear, frustration and rages were parts of all her ages. She wrote everything down in her diary's pages, but mostly she was just courageous. At first, she was dressed in princess style, ribbons and bows, her parents smiled. But after a while, she grew tired of it. She began to design, to sew, and to knit. Talia made her own skirts and pants, and created her own funky elegance. And whatever she asked for, Talia received, but never, not once, was she ever deceived that the stuff of the world mattered so much. Rather friendship and laughter and the sweet, loving touch. And her brains, they were admired by scholars and peasants who came and they asked for her brilliant 2 cents. She considered their problems, her eyes got intense. Then sweetly she gave them her intelligence. At 1 she was precious, at 2 she could walk, at 3 she was precocious, at 4 could she talk. At 5 she was curious, at 6 she was cute, at 7 she was furious, at 8 she learned flute. At 9 she got a horse, at 10 a manners course, at 11 she was right, at 12 she was wrong, at 13 she was studious, at 14 she was strong, at 15 Talia was glorious, at 16 the day when the spell would carry her away, her parents called to say they decided to travel, to see the ballet. They left in their carriage of silver and gold, and forgot about the curse that had been foretold. The castle was bustling, as busy as could be. The dog chased the cat right up the cook was yelling at the kitchen boy because the kid was lazy and bumbling and he broke all the laws. The matrons were knitting, the donkeys were kicking, the gardeners were digging their dirt, the scribes were inscribing, the drunks were imbibing. The laundress was washing their shirt. In every corner something was doing. No one suspected that mischief was brewing. My parents gone for the afternoon. I think I'll set out to look for new rooms. The castle contains 210, and though I've discovered most of them, some remain as mysteries. I see a new door. It has an old key and stairs that wind up to a tower. They're dusty and dank. Air is sour. I wonder what is at the top. Then Talia came to a stop, for there she heard the whiny squeal of an ancient woman at a spinning wheel.
What is your name?
The woman asked. Talia's eyes were fixed on the task, the spinning wheel and all its wonder, its lightning speed, and all its thunder.
Would you like to try yourself? I think you should, but you need my help. Come a little closer and
this spindle with your hand. Talia touched the spindle's tip into her skin. It did dip. From her oozed a drop of blood. Her body fell with a flopping thud. For that woman was the fairy in disguise who had waited 16 years for her prize. She laughed at Talia lying on the floor and flew like fire out the open door. Once there was a queen, once there was a king. Once there was a love as sweet as a dove. Once there was a pool and a frog and a babe and 12 fairies and all the gifts they gave. Once there was a fairy rejected and scorned, as if she had never ever been born. Once there was stairs and a mystery. Now was the hour of misery. Her parents returned with a grand entrance, but something was wrong. They became tense. They sensed in their hearts and in their bones something wicked had spoiled their home. They called all the king's soldiers and all the king's men, who searched 209 rooms. Then 210, where Talia was found sleeping. And then they carried her down to her four-posted bed. They cried and they wailed as if she were dead. Just then, a wind and a whoosh as loud as could be delivered the magical 12th fairy, who waved her wand round in the air till every person and creature in there fell into a sleep of 100 years. The cook was about to knock the poor lad. The scribes were about to start a new pad. The gardeners had picked up their heavy new shovels when a spell came upon them and sleep took their troubles. The dog stopped his chasing. The cat took a doze. The laundress stopped washing. Everything froze. The spell that befell them was mighty all right. Snoring commenced then for a long, long, long night. Years is a long, long, long time. The castle grew covered with thorns and with vines. The briars created a thick bramble wall that rose right up to the tower tall. The legend was born, and it spread through the land of the fair maiden who reached out her hand, touched the spindle, and fell asleep, and slept within the forest deep. In that castle, under that blanket of trees, the royals and all caught up on their Z's. Their eyelids fell, and in the spell, they all began to dream. Talia's dreams fell like rain from the farthest corners of her brain. She saw herself sitting at a wheel, spinning so wildly till over she keeled. I see in the mirror the face of a hag, whose dress is a torn and tattered old rag, but looking deep into the old woman's eyes, my own self I recognize. I see 12 snow-white birds with white pages for wings fly off to the horizon, each holding a ring. And a weathered old crow with fire-red eyes sounds a screeching caw-caw, soars into the skies. I see a giant frog leap from a grandfather clock and suddenly turns into solid gold rock. And dragon tails wag in a field of pink roses as ancient stone statues break out of their poses. Next, I run with a pounding heart. Something chases, shooting darts. I'll hide here in this cave till the danger passes and my life is saved. And now my dreams turn to fun. Rainbow clouds float past the sun. A furry puppy, hey, licks my ear. And just like that takes away my fear. For 100 years, her dreams were ablaze. That's 36,500 long days. Princes and soldiers and mighty men came to the forest to claim her. With swords and with knives, they risked their dear lives. But the thorns grew more vicious, not to tame her. The brambles were a graveyard for knights and young men. Their capes and their caps hung sadly from them. Still, hardened fellows took the dare. Only to add to the misery there. The legend spread to everywhere of Talia, the sleeping beauty. Once, there was a prince with a dream and some plans to travel off to faraway lands. The dream was real as could be. It started when he was barely 3, to see the world, to find a girl, to live a life of adventure. At 5 years old, he stood on his toes to watch which way the wind would blow. He followed the path the leaves did show, and wondered to where the breeze did go. At 8, he opened up the gate. The dream called him, he couldn't wait. His mommy saw him with his pack and kindly offered him a snack. He took the cake and treats to eat, then bravely he crossed the street till a hairy thing moved in a tree. That's enough adventure for me. And he went back home to safety. At 12, he was readier. His courage was steadier. He climbed the wall, but took a fall and limped back home upsettier. At the ripe old age of 15, again he tried the same thing. Only this time, he landed right, and he ran like the wind with all his might. But in the forest, in the dark of night, he heard the cries of an animal fight. Filled his gut with horror, fright. He stood his ground. But with the morning light again he headed home. was real. It was really true. And one thing I truly know is that one day I will follow through to live a life of adventure. Bit by bit, I became a man, the princely ruler of a land. Still, that lofty dream did shine, till it was just the time to set out upon my journey. And this was the prince. This was the prince who had heard of the tale, who sat near the forest and considered the trail. Oh. Those who came and those who tried, those who suffered, those who died. They didn't use their common sense. 100 years takes much patience. I will wait here, still, till just a day. The 100 years have faded away. And boldly I walk into the wood. The forest opens. I knew it could. It opened up just like a flower and closes behind me with its power. All my fear I leave behind. Only one thought is in my mind, to find the sleeping beauty. I will follow this path of flowering sprigs beneath the thorny vines. And from time to time I'll take a sip of my bottle of sweet honeyed wine. And now, the castle door. I shall knock. Ooh, oh my gosh, the door's unlocked. Let me call out loud for someone to come. But no one comes. Not one. Let me step inside. Oh, what a mess. Dust and spider webs. People sleeping everywhere, but not one upon a bed. Head on a post, down on the floor, in the tub, against the door. And none look like a princess fair. Not one, not anywhere. I'll search. And now, a room of green and lace galore, and there asleep upon the bed, the angel I've been looking for, tucked in and cozy. Her cheeks are still rosy. Her beauty is without a doubt. My eyes take her in. I reach out my chin, and I kiss her on the mouth. 100 years had just been done. The fairy spell was over. Talia awoke to see the bloke who stood above her shoulders. His smile was kind, his eyes were blue, and suddenly she fully knew the 100 years were over. I kissed you. Then you woke, said he. I woke, and then you kissed me, said she. You did? Indeed. Oh well. Hey, it's the spell. Then she went to the bathroom and peed. 100 years had just been done. The fairy spell was over. People awoke, rubbed the sleep from their eyes, looked outside to the bright blue skies. Good fortune has come, the spell is done, let the cleaning begin right now. Then the lad got his lashing, the gardeners did dig, the wash got its washing, so did the pig. And the king and queen queen saw everything. Talia, the prince, and how they laughed, and how they cried, and danced, and sang, and rang out the bells for all to hear. Talia was well, all were awake, and they asked of the baker a wedding cake. Wait, said the princess. Stop the hubbub. I'll marry a man with whom I'm in love, not a stranger, a man such as this, who simply had patience and planted a kiss. The prince felt rejected. He bowed his head. But Talia reflected and sweetly said, "Hey, look, let's walk in the gardens. We'll play with the doves. Together we'll see if we are fit for love." She flashed him a smile that was 10 miles wide. The prince melted like chocolate. Deep down in. She took his hand and followed her out. And when they came back, there wasn't a doubt that once there was a princess brilliant and fair. Once there was a prince who patiently dared. Together they listened to the song of the dove. They lived happily ever after in wonderful love. Ladies and gentlemen, oh, so nice. It's a great joy to be here with you today. These folks, Maxine, have been guiding lights in my life and development of my new work. And so, we are family. Let me just check with our timekeepers. How much time do we have? We have a little more time? Good. What I'm going to ask then is maybe Daniel will play a little music for you, and I'll go change and come back and tell you another quick little story. How about that? Sound good? Daniel Kelly. say drip, drop, drip, drip, drop. I say drip, drop, drip, drip, drop. Oh, the rain came falling down from the sky. The rain came falling down, drip, drop. I said drip, drop. The rain came falling down from the sky till all around the world there was water. And then the sun came out. The water went down and down till all around the world till there was mud. A little bit of mud pulled itself together. That mud was like. This little piece of mud became the world's first turtle. And the first turtle took his first step, and it sounded like. And his first word was, ew. He took his second step, and his second word was, yuck. Everywhere the turtle looked, it was dirty and muddy and yuck. Then the turtle looked up and saw the sky. It was blue and it was clean, and the sun was shining through. And the little turtle said, I want to live in the sky. So the little guy started to walk there. It sounded like. And he walked till he came to a place where there was a great big vulture. The vulture was eating his dinner, something with blood and guts and goo. The little turtle said, excuse me, can you take me to live in the sky? Get out of here, turtle, I'm eating my dinner. Oh, but Mr. Vulture, I want to live in the sky. All right, you little crybaby, as soon as I'm done with my... All right, turtle, this is what you do. Climb up my feathers and sit between my wings. The turtle was so happy. He climbed up and up and up and up and sat between the vulture's wings. The vulture looked back at him and said, all right, little man, you better hang on. It could get bumpy. Then the vulture lifted his mighty wings, and when he did, ooh, excuse me, Mr. Vulture, but something don't smell so good. He pretended not to hear. He flapped his wings, and they started to fly. And why, when he lifted his wings again, woo-hoo! Excuse me, Mr. Vulture, but something smells like cheese. He pretended not to hear. He flapped his wings, and when he lifted them, woo-hoo! Excuse me, Mr. Vulture, no offense too, but something smells like a diaper. He pretended not to. He flapped, Mr. Vulture, no offense. You stink. And that was it. Here the vulture was giving the turtle a ride to the sky, and all the little guy could do was say bad, mean things about him. No. The vulture couldn't take it anymore, and instead of flapping his wings, the vulture shrugged his shoulders so hard that the turtle was thrown off his back and came falling down to the ground. And he landed so hard that the turtle's beautiful, smooth shell broke off his body. And it left the turtle totally and completely naked. And the turtle had to find all the pieces of his shell and put himself together again. He had to put himself together again. Whenever you see a turtle, check out the shell. It's made of pieces. Put back together again. This is a wise story. So say all of us can reach for the sky, but please be careful what you say, because you might not make it all the we have a few minutes to take a quick Q&A. We can bring the house lights up if somebody's back there. Anything you want to know about Sleeping Beauty, about Daniel Kelly? By the way, my website is narcissist.com. It's all there.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
The turtle, this whole day is about innovation and imagination. And the turtle, it sounds to me like, was an innovator or somebody who was very imaginative wanting to live in the sky. Isn't the moral of the story really be careful about that, because you could fall and this could happen to you?
Yes, it is. Mr. Philosopher. Of course, these fairy tales and fables are of many layers to them, of course. No, of course, you can read that so many different ways. Thank you. Anything else you want to know? Please, don't be shy. We accept financial advice as well.
How did you get started like this?
Daniel came in from that side. My background is in music, actually. My first love and my early experience as an artist, if you will, was playing the guitar, and I still do. It's my first love. I started I worked as a music therapist in special ed for about 20 years. I started very early. It's true. I saw Geraldo Rivera hop the fence at Willowbrook. Those of you who are old enough to remember. If you're old enough to remember, let me see some hands. Remember when Geraldo Rivera was a journalist? Yes. Well, I saw that, and I felt so disempowered in the 60s when I was a kid. And when I saw that, I said, wow, there's somebody doing something cool. And I started volunteering there. And I brought my guitar and my maracas, and I took this course in music therapy. So I spent many years working with mostly emotionally disturbed kids in special ed. And it was there I started telling stories in my 20s. And then I discovered the work of Joseph Campbell, Carl Jung, and people who really took stories seriously. And it was quite a journey for me to, on one hand, be playing with these kids, on the other hand, hearing this information. So I started, to tell more and more and more. And about 17 years ago, I jumped ship. And I've been living by my wits ever since. Yeah.
What in blue blazes is Sleeping Beauty moralizing about?
I have no idea. I can tell you what happened for me. I don't think fables, have the morals. Fairy tales are much more layered and complex. I can tell you what happened for me with that story. Was that it's a weird story. It's kind of an empty story on the surface, is it not? Right? She falls asleep. He gives her a kiss. She's awake. What the hell happened? So my first inspiration was a kind of a feminist empowerment tale. So I gave her these qualities of artistry, beauty, courage, determination, elegance, ferocity, gratitude, humor, intelligence, joy, patience. How do I memorize that? It's alphabetical. And so I thought it was that, right? There's the ambiguity at the end. But then, those of you might relate to this, I have a crisis in my life these past couple of years. Whatever things are going on, it's hard. And I started realizing like there were parts of myself that I didn't attend to, like I didn't bring to the party. You know what I'm talking about? And so I had one day a kind of an insight that the story is not really doesn't revolve around Sleeping Beauty or the prince. It revolves around the 13th fairy, for me. What part of the self is not included and how it comes back in retribution. How many of you are feeling my pain right now? So that's, I don't call that a moral. I think that there's, for me, it's been a journey and a process. But once I kind of discovered that, it really kind of plugged me into the juice of the story. We really amped it up, started really taking shape there. Any questions about the music? You heard some of the Goldberg variations from Bach, and then Daniel wrote everything else. Any questions for Daniel about the music? Yeah.
Composed some of it yourself?
Yeah, I wrote everything besides the Bach.
He's as good as Bach. What we did when we first began this process, I listened to the Goldberg variations almost daily, and especially the aria. Can you play me just And the very first rehearsal we had with the team, the director, lighting designer, video designer. When we do this on a big stage, big video design, there's about 65 light cues, and it's a big Megillah. But we listened to that recording of it many times, and kind of came up with we want to be accountable to the level of grace, simplicity, intelligence, beauty. And then Daniel experimented a lot of the Goldberg variations. They're quite difficult, and then he wrote his own variations. So, like what is some of the stuff he wrote?
I wouldn't call them variations, but I wrote other music.
Like what's one of your things?
Well,
This is when the spinning wheel's happening, and it's a real psychedelic, huge psychedelic thing. It goes on for about very strong. And by the way, this is the first time it's ever been played on a keyboard. Normally, it's with the best possible grand piano, Steinway 9-foot or 7-foot, or really high. So it's quite a thing. Yes.
Is it possible to say that Victor Borg may have copied from you at one time?
I'm in Victor Borga world, actually. I'm watching all his clips on YouTube, which are really, really funny. So I'm developing my own show. A lot of time I'm behind the scenes, supporting this guy, and I don't get to do let my own inner extrovert out. So I'm creating a show with my alter ego called Half Note. And he's a musical clown, and Victor Borga has been the inspiration. So for a moment, I didn't know. I was like, should I play a serious piece of music, or should I be stupid? And
Stupid always wins.
Yeah. This is the right setting.
Let's take a couple more. Let's give me time to go. Yes.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that I think the music is really great because even when you're not narrating the story, like the listener is still engaged in the story through the music, which I think is really great.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the goal. To continue the story through the music and to, engage with the story in a different way, not just words with the music. And also when I'm underscoring, I think it's like in a movie, it connects the message more to you, I think, emotionally. It's like a bridge.
So far in the past 2 years, something like 100,000 kids have heard the Goldberg variations in Daniel's music. And we have big houses, like 1,200 kids. And on one hand, it's like really what I'm trying to do is make a frame for young people to hear this great music with tremendous engagement, and let it do its work. Because for me, this is one of the great bits of secular, humanistic wisdom teaching. And to make a space where that can land and do its work. We did that with the Frog Bride, those of you who saw that show, the music of Prokofiev, and I'm really proud of that too. So, any last questions? Anybody got a burning question? Yes?
Did you ever consider using Tchaikovsky's Sleeping Beauty? Like the ballet, as part of... I would love to have Bach and Tchaikovsky.
Duke it out. And this going on? No, but I love the idea. We have a friend, Frederick Chu, who's a world-class classical pianist. He does a thing called the Smackdown, where he'll take two composers and he'll pit one against the other. So he'll have Ravel against Debussy, or Bach against Vivaldi and stuff like that. Anyway, I hope to see you around today. Let's give a round of applause to our wonderful convener, Daniel Kelly. Thank you guys. Oh, sorry. 30 30 seconds of shameless self-promotion. We do school performances, we do master classes, and all that kind of thing, and we have dates available this year and into next year. So if you want to talk about that, try to break or whatever, happy to share that information with you. Thank you.